ni chukweke wanyoma mejaga. Asama wanyoma, wanyoma mejaga. Uwano wa mayola, achubamyari akakola. Beria ni chukweke wanyoma mejaga. Ogare la gemma. Onya wale wane, onya oleje wane. Onya wale wane chigonya ole awane anya. Eleje wane ganya, iunde chitime. Echidime onye mayoga mwe dali. Why are we gender? Medie one good on deserves another. You are a biggie star. How I wonder what you are. Onyeri amara di mma Onyeri amara di mma kwa onyeri amara di mma enwoma iwu no nyo seke mma yesi di omo o mekuo abawa aba Why are we there? One good turn deserves another nature column. Okay, so wrong with him, and many I come with a call, okay. Yes, you want Namaka, she makes you one Namaka. Yes, you want Namaka, she makes you one Namaka. Every and in them, that knock a like a man. Let you break a one on my bedero, I baby. Mediani to break a one on my mejaga.
Okay,
Asama one yoma, on your mejaga. One of my yola, and to one yadi akakopa.
Okay, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depends the part of the world you're joining us from. I am Mazichika Austin. Very, very important because we have a very limited time to discuss. What we're going to talk is just a very concise issue. I mean, very, very limited, and it's going to come on a very comprehensive presentations because is issue that requires deep understanding of how things are evolving. Um, Please important you also notify us if you are getting us loud and clear so that we can now hit the button on the issues of the moment. Very, very important. So if you're getting us loud and clear, please use the comment section to let us know that we are coming out loud and clear. While we're waiting for that, we'll go for this interlude.
Woman, give me bottom belly, go to head. You want to?
Okay, having confirmed that, it's important I also remind us that we need to share this program so that can as well have a wider coverage as much as we expected or expect that to be. This evening we are talking about Nnamdi Kanu of IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu of Biafrans, and then Nnamdi Kanu of actors. And it's very, very important we make our people or we make ourselves to understand that Nnamdi Kanu have a multifaceted appearances. Very, very important to understand that because sometimes when you see the way people react over issues, you have no excuse than to believe that most of us have not really broadened our mind to realities of the time. We have not really broadened our mind to understand the complex nature and the tactical requirements or the complex tactics that is needed for us to get what we are seeking for. It requires is a complex situation that requires a very complex approach. for one to have his way. Very, very important. And in the midst of the complexities of the tactics or the strategies, so many of us are left behind, simply or owing to the fact that we refuse to, think fast. We refuse to look at issues in a very complex situation. We have been so parochial, we have been so narrow-minded in analyzing and looking at issues. And that's why most of us tend to have been left behind. And when people seem not to be meeting up with the speed at which things are happening, you see them resorting to, all forms of alarmist tone, all forms of hysterical dispositions, raising tensions, raising anxieties. But it doesn't call for that. We just need to understand. So I decided to talk about this issue. Very, very important. We also seize this platform to remind Biafrans and lovers of freedom that tomorrow the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra will be appearing in court. The legal team have really done a wonderful thing to revise the hand clock, and very, very important, also the leadership has also done a very behind camera works. A lot of works have been going behind camera, so we give kudos to every individual or group of individuals that have been working around the clock to make sure things are achieved the way uh, Biafran people want it to be. So, but I want to talk about a very serious issue this evening. And what is that issue I'm talking about? The essence I've decided to choose about this is because we just need to step up our mind. A lot of us are still behind in terms of issues as they are developing. You should understand that we are on a movement, and because what we are doing is a movement, there is bound to be evolution. There is bound to be advancement from one stage to another. So if you relax on a particular stage, you might be sounding, colloquial, so to say, or you might be sounding outdated because the movement have left a particular stage you are familiar with. That's why we must be articulative. We must be smart. We must be, very, very multifaceted in our ability to look at issues. So let me start by looking at Nnamdi Kanu of IPOB. Whether you like it or not, Nnamdi Kanu is no longer the Nnamdi Kanu of IPOB, and I must tell you this. Nnamdi Kanu currently is personifying a nation. Nnamdi Kanu currently is personifying ideology. And by extension, Nnamdi Kanu, as I speak to you, is personifying international interest. And I want you to understand that. If you understand that, you will now appreciate the current state at which we are. You will now understand why this might happen, why this is happening. But if you don't understand it, you will think it's all about Nnamdi Kanu IPOB. Nnamdi Kanu has transcended from Nnamdi Kanu of IPOB to Nnamdi Kanu of the Biafran people, even by extension, Nnamdi Kanu of international players. Take this to the bank if you're interested to know. We are carried away by issues that are happening before cameras. And that is where most of us get it wrong. What you see happening before cameras are just less than 60% of the real issues happening. And that is why so many of us who activate hysterical tone end up, wasting their times and energy. Why did I choose to make this topic, Nnamdi Kanu of IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu of Biafrans, and Nnamdi Kanu of actors? Recently, there have been several comments, there have been several individuals Some people have been, throwing support to Mazen Nnamdi Kanu. Some people have been speaking in support of Nnamdi Kanu. And I most time get reactions from so many of us, and I laugh. I said, is it because we as a people were exposed in commerce, the matrix of trading, but we are not really exposed to matrix of politics? And that is why we tend to believe on where we are already fixated. Now, there are things you must understand, and there is need for us, each and every one of us, to understand that IPOB and Nnamdi Kanu have evolved to a point that they are power brokers in East. Take note, be careful, and pay attention to what I'm saying. I repeat, IPOB and Nnamdi Kanu have evolved in course of time. They have transcended, they have metamorphosed to power brokers and the active actors in Eastern Nigeria, or should I say in Biafra land. What that implies is this: if you consider the power quotient, we are not talking about political science. If you consider the power disposition at IPOB, at Nnamdi Kanu, it is natural to see them attracting the good, the bad, and ugly. The good wants to identify with them because of their good cause. The bad wants to identify with them because the bad needs to clean his bad record if he cares. And the ugly wants to identify with them because they understand that if you wear the garment of IPOB or the mantra, the name of Nnamdi Kanu, your ugliness might be changed to goodness. We're talking about realities of life. So, if you see people talking about in support of IPOB, if you see people talking in support of Nnamdi Kanu, they are not wrong. The card they are playing is the card of reality. Political actors look at where the pressure is, where the current is, and they flow on that current dimension. They don't care how you feel. They don't care what to say. They don't care how you react. That is the behavior of an average politician. They consider where the power quotient is high. They identify. So when IPOB was struggling, evolving to register a footprint, to make her cause a mainstream one, people were distancing themselves from her. Because at that moment, she had a lot of prices to pay. But she has successfully broken a radar. She has successfully pushed out of a realm. And she has gotten to a realm that international actors are interested on how Nigeria managed the crisis at this level. She has gotten to a point that you cannot just carelessly come on television and say you cannot negotiate or dialogue with them. You cannot. She has left that realm. You can dump the realm of downplaying her. She has crossed it. And because politicians have a nature, they look at, they calculatively observe where power quotients fall in. You see them configuring themselves to adjust, to adapt, to integrate. So when you see such integrational movement coming from politicians, coming from those who have even spied Nnamdi Kanu, you don't need to panic. You don't need to worry. It's natural. I'm speaking issues of maturity. It's not issue of sentiment. They will definitely come. That is that is the law. That is the natural principle that holds an average politician. Because in a simple term, if you want to destroy yourself politically in eastern Nigeria or in Biafran land, just talk against Nnamdi Kanu. That is, or talk against IPOB, or talk about the movement, the Biafra. That is the easiest way. So politicians would not want to wreck their future. So what they do is to run around where they see, or to an individual that has popularity. And the question I want to ask, is it right for IPOB to dispel them? Or is it right for IPOB to maximize them? And that is where wisdom comes in. For those of us who don't understand. If you have what they want in their desperation, you can use them and achieve what you want. I repeat, if you have what they want in their desperation, because they are desperate, you can convert their desperation to your own advantage. And that is what IPOB is currently doing. For information of most of you who don't understand, it's beyond coming to social media and, just the way I'm doing, talking and talking. No. Behind the camera, you must have the wit, the internal strength and gift to convert their desperation advantageously to your own advancement. And that is what we must. I have been a student of, or championer of wisdom in whatever one is doing. When you cannot calculate, when you cannot know when to hit, believe you me, you are not smart. So we have gotten to a point that there is no way politicians, those who have failed, even in the agitation, we have gotten to a point that there is no way they will stop talking about Nnamdi Kanu. We have gotten to a point that you must see them rallying around Nnamdi Kanu. But the question we should ask ourselves is that what is the level of control do we have? Let me give you an instance. I'm going to use an international instance to buttress what I'm talking about. Most times people celebrate bigger nations. Sometimes people shout, America is doing this. I'm using international instance to buttress what I'm saying. Okay, let me give you a typical example. If you come to Ethiopia today, there's an ongoing crisis between the Tigray and the Ethiopian government. And at this mainstream, somebody say volume, at the center of that crisis is being overshadowed by USA. I don't know, for those of you who are following the crisis in Ethiopia, at the center of that crisis, Ethiopian government is just saying USA. The world is just saying USA. At the center of the ongoing crisis between the Tigray and the Ethiopian government. But let me shock you a bit. At the background of that crisis, at the pushing point of US, is Israeli interest. But at the center, the Ethiopian government is just saying to US, stop using fake news, attacking US. But at the background is the strong hand of the state of Israel. IPOB can still place the politicians at the roof. It's a question of smartness. allow them to be on the roof. Then at the background, you take control. Let me tell you one of the things you should understand about sometimes you allow the politicians to be flawed because it's their nature. The politicians are just like ants. Wherever they see illumination, they fly towards that dimension. That is their nature. So you might be doing yourself a disservice if you're still maintaining a hostile approach on them. Sometimes you allow them to be on the roof. Let me give you a clear, soft achievement we made recently, but most of us don't know. Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is charged with terrorism and blah, 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 by the Nigerian state. And in the same hand, a senator of Federal Republic of Nigeria went and had audience with a supposedly a terrorist. Do you know what the psychological message of that visit? It simply means if a senator could as well had a very extensive deliberation with a terrorist, that means the target of terrorism is just political witch hunting. How many terrorists, the real terrorists, have you seen a senator from northern Nigeria having audience with? So what IPOB win, or the win in IPOB got by the visit, is also to water down, to downplay, to water down the so-called the gravity of the charge of terrorism. Because if truly is a terrorist, the question people should ask, then why is the senator visiting him? It's a mind game. But if you don't understand the mind game, you will. You visiting him, does it change his ideology? No, he didn't. So who win in the visit is the man who used you to water down the stupidity and the stupidity of the charges against him. Did you change him? You even confess you didn't change him, that you guys are still maintaining opposite ideology. So just imagine Nigerian government is lobbying to international communities to proscribe or blacklisted, to blacklist, to say IPOB. And in the same way, there are pictures showing that a senator of Nigeria state had audience, a reasonable time of audience with the so-called terrorists. How do you think their storyline of blacklisting IPOB will fly successfully in Washington or Brussels? So these are some of the things we must understand. This is a movement. It evolves. Evolution, I mean, is that it develops from one state to another. And at this very moment, it requires more mental calculation than noise making. The time we were using a verbal projection was the time we wanted to push what we are demanding. We wanted to mainstream it. At the period of mainstreaming, we can use anything to mainstream it, even though we call you a madman. We are calling you a madman because we want you would seek your attention. If you think we use a derogatory language or foul languages on you, we did that because we need that attention. You must pay us attention. And we have mainstreamed it. Now we are settled for the next stage of the struggle. And for your information, I needed not to say this because I understand the kind of viewers I have. I have viewers from the Nigerian state angle and also have viewers from the Biafra state. But let me try to see if I can use understatement in what I want to say. We have come to a very sensitive point in the struggle, and that is the point of engagement. Engagement. You see, this time we are is going to take a lengthy period because this is a time you must present what you need on the table. You know, when people say dialogue, those who don't understand how it works think it's just if you release Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, you have dialogue. No, 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 no. Releasing of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is just a precondition. There's what in dialoguing, there's what we call precondition for dialogue, dialogue period, and post-dialogue period. There are 3 stages. The precondition for dialogue are those things you say, if you want us to come on table, do this, do this. And you also say to us, before we go to table discussion, you have to do this. For those of us who don't understand how it works, so many of us think that if Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is released, it's part. No, no, no. It might be a precondition for dialogue. Because as I speak to you, the Nigerian state is interested in having a political solution to the demand of Biafrans. And what does political solution entail? Dialogue. And one of the preconditions for coming to table should be you cannot hold a man on chain and expect him to dialogue. A man must come to negotiate a dialogue table with a free will mind. And one of those ways is that you must free him first. Because so many of us think if Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is released, dialogue has started. No, 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 no. There are preconditions for dialoguing. When United States and Taliban we are dialoguing in Qatar, for those of you who know about it, there were preconditions. There were preconditions. In fact, I remember one of the preconditions was United States said to Taliban, please allow a free transit of our logistics and our soldiers from Pakistan to Afghanistan. Give it. That was the precondition. And Taliban said to US, you have to stop using area bombing on our foot soldiers. And they reached on that precondition. The 2 sides maintained that precondition before they now went to Doha and start the real dialogue. For your information, that is how it works. That is how it works. Because there is, there is this misconception, there is this misunderstanding of the whole process. In course of stating precondition for dialogue, there might also be going back to primordial stage. It does happen. Because our own nation, our own population is a population that are not, groomed in the act of international politicking. Let me tell you, if you're interested to know, Nigeria cannot afford a crisis. In fact, one of those things the current government is very, very careful with is not to overblow the Biafra Nigerian question, the Biafra Nigerian issue. And the United States, European Union have always been telling them. Some of you don't understand what is happening in Ethiopia. In Ethiopia, what happened in Ethiopia was a kind of deception. by African leaders. African leaders went on solidarity walk to Ethiopia and promised the Ethiopian prime minister that they are going to help him to suppress the Tigray. And the Western countries were advising him, the prime minister said, use dialogue. Dialogue with these guys. Dialogue with these guys. But the likes of Buhari, them, and all the rest of them flew down to Addis Ababa. You remember? And told the man that you can do anything you want. We're in support of you. The president of Eritrea, which is a neighboring country, also gave promises and said, flush these people. We African leaders, we are going to be behind you. But the man thought it was a promise that we are going to be kept. Immediately the crisis blew up. African leaders they are nowhere to be found in helping Ethiopia. Today, United States have sanctioned Eritrea military, sanctioned the ruling party, and also threatening the Ethiopian government. Because they told them, activate the political solution to the problem. But because he have deceptive leaders flooding all over African political space, they cajoled him. And you can see what is happening. He has abandoned Addis Ababa and he's in the field fighting. And this is what they are also, when American Secretary of the State visited, they also pointed to Buhari that Ethiopian scenario might be worse than your own if you don't activate political process in solving the Biafran issue, in solving the Oduduwa issue. And that was when they began to understand the intensity of the whole thing we are talking about. And that is when you start hearing them that they are interested for political issues. Not because of the local pressure, not because of domestic pressure. Domestic pressure can never put them into seriousness. It's as a result of the fact they are seeing that what is happening in Ethiopia can as well replicate in a bad faith within the Nigerian political space. And they are in a haste to activate the political process. So we must understand that political process does not come on a federalist approach. It does not come on a fire brigade approach. It takes process and processes. So if Mazi Nnamdi Kanu is released, presumably, it does not in any way mean that dialogue has started. It might be a precondition given by the leadership of IPOB before going to table. I really want us to be well acquainted so that we can be mentally disposed of the whole thing. Anyway, it's very, very important for me to state that this is my private opinion. It's my individual submission. So that you don't contradict it to be official position. This is my personal position. So, as it currently is, Nnamdi Kanu is no longer Nnamdi Kanu of IPOB only. And as a matter of fact, for those of you who care to listen, IPOB is no longer a group thing. IPOB has evolved. She has unconsciously transcended herself to an asset of a people. Very, very important. Take it or you leave it. IPOB is now representing the political fates of the Biafran people. And that is why IPOB, whether she likes it or not, must be facing crisis. Because immediately a movement transcends from a group to a nation, she became a playground for interest. I think one of those things my followers will attest to on this platform is that we expose political issues from a serious point of view, not sentimental point of view. So if anybody tells you IPOB will not face another crisis, that person is highly economical with truth. I tell you the truth. Because she has successfully disabled every other group in the land by her actions. She has relegated every other groups in the land. And only her is seen as the face of the people. So she must have what we call interest conflict or conflict of interest. The primordial actors you are relinquishing will also be interested to find a way to maintain some level of power sharing within the IPOB. And future power brokers or actors will also strive. It's nature. We are talking about natural issue. We are not talking about sentimental issue. So when you see those you don't even believe, speaking for Nnamdi Kanu, speaking for IPOB, it is called a soft landing approach. They just have to do it. It is a necessity that they do it. Because as it stands now, IPOB has successfully maintained a strategic positioning in Nigerian political space, in Biafran land political space. So those of them who were so antithetical with the political philosophy of IPOB has to do everything in a subtle way to have a relationship with IPOB. It's natural. You can shout the way you want to shout. It doesn't change this reality. It's a reality on ground. And when you see these guys coming, when you see these guys giving all sort of accolades to Nnamdi Kanu, to IPOB, you don't need to activate a hostility towards them. Why you don't need to activate hostility? You should be interested to, first of all, hold your internal structure. That is what you should be crazy about. If the internal circle is intact, then anybody can fly and perch within the roof. It doesn't change anything. And let me tell you something. The more these political actors are affiliating with IPOB, the more the signal of cohesion is sent from us to the enemy, the external enemies. And nothing scares them than when they see any signal for cohesion among us. I don't know if you understand. Yes. There are drama in everything, so when it comes to issues of this. Sometimes you take a group picture with a formal enemy, not because he is a friend, but you take that group picture because you want to tell the external enemy that was using him that, see, the person you were using before seemed to have returned to our own line. It's called a Cold War. It's an ideological war. It's a mind war. If you don't understand it, you will now goof. If you don't understand it, you will just fumble. And one of the reasons why DSS is unable to destroy this movement is because we understand the mind game better than them. In fact, we play it even to them. And that's why they describe us as guerrilla journalists. People don't understand what it means. If you take time, I think the person who did a wonderful postulation on guerrilla warfare is a Chinese. It should be Monzon, something like this. He's a Chinese warrior. He made a very semantic and systematic dissection of the theory of guerrilla warfare. If you understand it, you understand that it it lies here. It's not issue of noise. It's not issue of how you talk. It's not issue of eloquency. It's issue of mind game. And that's why this struggle has not been destroyed. Because we like DSS told you, we play a guerrilla ideology. We penetrate your mind, screw it up when needed, or screw it down when needed also. So, but when people don't understand this, you see them shouting. You see them shouting. So, we are not going to spend much time. So we must understand that Nnamdi Kanu is not just Nnamdi Kanu of IPOB. He's an Nnamdi Kanu of a nation. And because he's an Nnamdi Kanu of a nation, don't be surprised when he is released. You see some people coming around, visiting and all this. That is how it is. He's also Nnamdi Kanu of an international interest because he has proven beyond every reasonable doubt that he's the choice of the people. So at that point, he is attractive to a lot of international actors. I don't want to go deep down on that level. So when you understand that he is no longer Nwanna, he has transcended from Nwanna to Enyoha. There is a metamorphosis from Nwannarism to Enyoharism. Permit my diction. Then when you understand that, then you have to now enlarge your heart for what is to come. I was privileged to speak to somebody, a very top person anyway. Today we had a very long issues, as in a long discussion. And something somewhere happened. And we are making a comparative analysis about how the Biafran people are working around the clock to make sure Mazi Nnamdi Kanu regains his freedom, and how the Duduwa people are also going about it. And I got some degree of expose, because this person is an inside, of course, within the circle of government. He told me that the Fulanis, what is going on in their mind is this, that if they can make peace with Biafrans, that the Duduwa people can just be a walk away. This is how they think. And these people who want to make peace also have their fears. That in as much as Nnamdi Kanu is at the heart of socio-political happening within the space, geographical space, called Biafran space, that it will be so difficult for them to have the kind of peace they want. And they don't see Nnamdi Kanu possibly walking away from his vision or even abandoning the Oduduwa brethren. They don't see the possibility. I don't know if you understand, a lot of mind games going on. So we must be very, very articulative. We must be very, very articulative. We have gotten to a point that we understand that we have mainstreamed this cause. Those who said earlier, nothing to discuss, Biafra issue is not worth discussing, are now saying, okay, political, let's use political solution. And I want to tell you, because each time we talk about political solution, is really complex. It's really ambiguous to most of us. Political solution simply means activating the process of dialogue. And dialogue simply means you must accommodate the interests. The two parties must accommodate the interests of each and every one of them. And compromises must be made. But one thing is very, very important you should understand in dialogue. Dialoguing, the process of dialogue, activation of dialogue or political process does not mean that desired solution will be achieved. I repeat, the activation of political process is normal for people to be optimistic, to be positive. But the truth is, historically speaking and diplomatically speaking, it does not mean that when we start dialoguing that we will come out with smile. It does not. You can have a failed discussion and everybody returns back to trenches. These are realities. Why am I taking time to say this? So that our people should also prepare their mind on the complicity of the process. When people tell you political solution, if the Nigerian state is ready to reach out, to implement some of the conditions IPOB is presenting or is going to present on the table, it will also be a matter of time before what they are expecting from IPOB will happen. I don't know if really we understand what we are talking about. So that you understand is is a very, very mental demanding process. And of course, it's only a process that actors know what they want, even though they say another thing before cameras. I repeat, take this as a take-home gift. It's only a process the actors know what they have in their mind, even though they say on the contrary before cameras. And we must understand that. So we have come to the end of this evening program because of our time. So many of us need to sleep. So many of us are already sleeping. So many of us are, already waking up. But whichever way, we must pray for successful experience tomorrow. And also, we must also thank the leadership and the legal team for being able to do a lot of things behind cameras. We must give them kudos. we must give them kudos. And we all must be focused, because indeed we have really, really pushed to a very strong height that you can never say we are not worthy of discussion. You said that is at your own peril. So we must be focused, we must be optimistic, we must be positive, and above all, we must have faith in the creator of the universe, because without him, we can never, absolutely never achieve anything. From here, I want to say good night and do enjoy yourself.
Chiki sini biakwala belego onyoma. Chiki sini hona ababa na mapo onyoma.